The Finnish Snow War, also known as the Winter War, was a 3-month conflict between Finland and the Soviet Union. From November 1939 to March 1940, the war took place during the height of winter with temperatures as low as -40 degrees Fahrenheit or -40 Celsius. Despite being heavily outnumbered and outgunned, the Finns were able to resist the Soviet invasion by utilizing their knowledge of the terrain and the cold weather. They employed guerrilla tactics, ambushes, and ski patrols to harass the Soviets, who were bogged down by their heavy equipment and supplies. Here's what made the Finnish Snow War so unique. Number 10. The Soviet Union invaded Finland because it wanted to buffer its border with the Baltic states. Also, they wanted to create a naval base at Hangu in southwestern Finland, which would allow them to control the Gulf of Bothnia and threaten the city of Stockholm. Additionally, Stalin believed that Finland would easily fall like the other countries he had already conquered, such as Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. However, he underestimated the Finnish people's determination to resist the Soviet invasion. Number 9. The Finnish army was much smaller than the Red Army. It only consisted of 250,000 men, while the Soviets had 1 million soldiers. But the Finns had something the Soviets didn't have: experience fighting in the snow. Every able-bodied Finn knew how to ski and use a rifle, and many of them had hunted in the deep snow. This gave them a huge advantage over the Soviets, who were not used to fighting in such conditions. The Finns were also very familiar with the terrain. They knew where the best places to set up ambushes were, and how to move through the forest without being seen. Number 8. The Finnish president at the time was Kyösti Kallio. He was a former career military officer who had experience fighting the Russians in the Russo-Finnish War of 1918. When the Soviets invaded Finland, he called for total mobilization of the country's resources and the formation of a national militia, called the Lada SVT. This militia consisted of volunteers from all walks of life, including school teachers, shop assistants, and farmers. They were trained in guerrilla tactics and given weapons and ammunition. Number 7. The Finnish resistance was fierce, and the Soviets were unable to make any significant progress. In fact, they lost more men to freezing and starvation than to combat. The Finns were able to hold off the Soviets for 3 months despite being outnumbered and outgunned. This was thanks to their knowledge of the terrain, the cold weather, and their guerrilla tactics. The Finnish also used skis to great effect. They were able to move through the snow-covered forests much faster than the Soviets, which allowed them to set up ambushes and then disappear before the Soviets could respond. 6. The turning point of the war came when the Soviet leader, Joseph Stalin, ordered his troops to capture the Mannerheim Line. This was a series of defensive fortifications that ran from east to west, across the neck of the Finnish state. It was named after Carl Gustaf Emil Mannerheim, the commander-in-chief of the Finnish army. The Soviets launched a massive attack on the line, but they were again thwarted by the Finnish defenders. However, the Soviets eventually broke through the line and advanced to within 16 kilometers of Helsinki. This forced the Finns to sign a peace treaty with the Soviet Union. Number 5. The Moscow Peace Treaty was signed on March 13, 1940. By this treaty, Finland had to cede 9% of its territory to the Soviet Union. This included the areas of Guerrilla, Salla, Kuusamo, and a part of Lapland. In addition, Finland also had to pay the Soviet Union 300 million Finnish marks in reparations. Despite the loss of territory and the economic burden, the Finns were able to retain their independence. Number 4. The Finnish people were proud of their country's achievement during the war. They had been able to defend their homeland against a much larger and more powerful enemy. This gave them a sense of national unity and identity. The war also led to an increase in Finnish nationalism. The Finns realized that they could not rely on any outside power to protect them. They had to be able to defend themselves. Number 3. The Finnish Snow War is still remembered today as a heroic chapter in the nation's history. Every year on December, Finns commemorate the start of the war with a moment of silence. The war is also commemorated with a number of monuments and museums. One of the most popular museums is the Snow War Museum in Salla, which was the site of some of the heaviest fighting during the war. Number 2. The Finnish War of 1939 to 1940 was one of the most epic battles between Finland and the Soviet Union. Although the Soviet Union won the war, the Finnish people did not give up. They continued to fight against the Soviets during World War II. The war ended with Finland regaining its independence and having to cede 9% of its territory to the Soviet Union. If you want to learn more about the Finnish Snow War, there are plenty of resources available. You can read books, watch documentaries, or even visit Finland to see the sights for yourself. One of the best ways to learn about the war is to talk to someone who was there. There are still many Finnish veterans of the war alive today, and they are happy to share their experiences with anyone who is interested. That's all for now. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any new videos.